I am on a mission to find a lot of red sequins. Now, for some reason, amongst the midst of a million other projects, I decided that I need a Dorothy dress. I don't know what made me think that I wanted to do this because I've never really thought about doing it before, but the idea hit my head, and ever since then I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. So today I'm going to be tackling her ruby slippers. I ordered these beauties off of Amazon. I got pink ones because I figured it's gonna be covered up anyway. They had the same ones in red, but they were more expensive, so I went with the cheapest pair, and they're kind of a pink suede, and I thought they were as close as I was gonna get to the right shape. I've been doing some brainstorming on these shoes. My original plan was that I would just get shoes, put glue over them, and dump them in glitter and have ruby slippers. I don't know why I was thinking that's what I was going to do when usually I want to get things accurate. So I was like, oh, that's gonna be the best idea. It's gonna be so easy. And then something in my head was like, what do they even actually look like? So I looked up the picture online and watched the movie and realized that the shoes are not in fact glitter, but that they are sequins. And then in the midst of my research, I was like, Lex, you've literally seen the shoes from the movie in real life. I went on a trip to Gettysburg and Washington, D.C. when I was 16, and the Smithsonian in D.C. actually has one of the several pairs of shoes they made for the movie. So I actually saw it in real life. So then when I realized that, I went back to look at the pictures I took from that trip, and my stupid 16-year-old self got one picture of this famous pair of shoes, and it's probably the worst picture anybody has ever gotten of these shoes, and it was only one. So I am so annoyed with my past self for not giving me any first-hand references that are good. So I'll show you guys the picture, but as you can see, it's a terrible picture. So I've done a lot of research on these shoes, and I think I'm ready to actually make them as screen accurate as possible, and that starts with going to as many fabric stores as I can to find red sequins trim. Sequin. Is it sequins or sequin? Red sequin trim. Okay, you guys, I didn't film at the store, but I am back with what I hope is more than enough supplies to make these shoes, plus this paint. The first store that I went to was Hobby Lobby, and I always have success here because they have amazing trims, and they had 3 of these red sequin trim things in stock. On these rolls, there is 4 yards on a roll. So I have 12 yards of this red trim, and I also have some red paint to paint these, and just for good measure I bought a bunch of loose sequins too. And then I saw these, which I thought would be really cool for the bow. They're just these little red ruby buttons and some red rhinestones. So I left the store, I was on my way home, and then I started thinking, what if this isn't enough? I mean, 12 yards sounds like a lot, but the whole shoe needs to be covered, and through studying several pictures of the real pairs of shoes, the sequins overlaps a lot. So then I was like, I don't want to have to go out again or be in the middle of it and have it not have enough. So Joann's was on my way home, and I stopped by, and they also had 3 things of this trim, and these are also 4 yards a spool. And from what I can tell, I think it's the same exact thing. I have 24 yards total. I can use 12 on one shoe, 12 on the other. I don't live in a huge town. There's not a lot of places to shop for sewing supplies where I live, so I've cleaned out the whole area of red trim, and I'm finally ready to start on these shoes. Part of the reason I want to do this is I think I want to do this for Halloween, but also my dog is literally Toto. She actually, let me tell you a story. Okay, little pause in the video to tell you guys. So I actually did theater basically my whole childhood from like the 4th grade until COVID started. A few years ago, I was in The Wizard of Oz. Unfortunately, I was not Dorothy, but my dog was Toto, and I've never been a prouder mom. I will see if I can find pictures to put in this video. But she was Toto, and she was wonderful, and I felt so special because since she's my dog, I got to be the one backstage, like the dog handler, and I would like pass her off and stuff. So I was so proud of her, and yeah, she's gonna reprise her role and be my Toto for this outfit. Now let's get back to the actual video. I have a feeling that the sequin part of the video is gonna take quite a while to do, and it's probably gonna be very tedious, and I don't know how I'm gonna attach it to these shoes. But the first thing we're gonna do today is actually paint the shoes. I'm gonna add this fabric painting medium just for good measure. I've not really noticed a huge difference. It makes things smoother, I guess. So I kind of just wing it. And I'm just gonna like mix that in, and I hope it doesn't turn it pink. It's not supposed to change the color. It looks a bit pinker to me. I always get a little nervous when I first start diving into something, especially something like this where there's no turning back. But it always turns out in the end, so I try not to get too worried. And as much as I love sewing, there's something so much fun about like making things that aren't dresses, if that makes sense. Like the 12 Dancing Princesses dress I just made. It was so much fun making this shoe. Okay, in between all of that, my camera cut me off because I ran out of storage and I got paint all over my pants. What was I saying though? Oh, the shoes. The 12 Dancing Princesses, it was a lot of fun making the dress, but something about making the shoes is even more fun. I always just feel like I'm being more creative than when I sew, when I get to make the props and things like that. Finished up this shoe and it has really great coverage, and so now I will paint this one, and I'll have to replenish the paint as well because that took a lot more than I thought. But isn't it pretty? Honestly, this is a beautiful color. It makes me want to buy a pair of red shoes. Let's paint this and keep going. They are both done painted, and as you can see I have a little helper and it's pretty full coverage. I might go over it a second time once it dries on a few spots where it's a bit light, like right there. It's a little patchy, but they're the perfect base, and this way you won't see any pink or anything underneath the sequins. So this is gonna dry off and then we'll come up with a game plan. So I did not film the trial of me working on it, but I have started the sequin process on these shoes, and they're turning out fantastic, if I do say so myself. Let me tell you that before I started, I didn't really know what to do. So let me walk you through the process. Originally, I was going to use E6000. This is like the big bottle that they have, but they also come in more fine tip bottles. And usually I have a few of those lying around, but I couldn't find any clear E6000 fine tip bottles, and I only had the white, but I knew the white would be a horrible decision. So what I did do, I started on this side of the shoe. I've been working this way now, but I started right here and worked towards the point, because looking at pictures of the original, it diagonals into a point on this part right here. One of them just fell off, and then it kind of just goes up. I'll put a lot of reference pictures because I haven't done a lot of research for this video. Originally I used E6000 for one strip, but since I only had clear and the big spout, I kind of just smeared it on there, and it just didn't really work. I found it to be too thick. The fumes are very strong and I wasn't really liking it, so I turned to my plan B, which is using this crystal glue pen that I get at Hobby Lobby. I have a couple of them, and this is what I use to rhinestone things. E6000 is actually industrial strength super glue. Yeah, industrial strength adhesive, it says. It's kind of, you're not supposed to just use it indoors, but I do anyway. Please don't follow my example. So I knew this is not industrial strength and it doesn't hold very strong, so I didn't know if it would work, especially on sequins and thread. So I just tried it out and it ended up working. You can see if I like slide it across, but it's really sturdy. It has been working, and the sequins that are falling off right now are off of the loose threads. I am going to keep moving along and show you how I've been gluing it. The nice thing is that this does have a very fine tip, so I'll glue and then put the sequins down. And I think I do have enough sequins because I can't tell how much is left of this. There's pretty much a lot. This is still my first roll, and I have the whole tip of this filled. So I'm gonna keep working up the sides, and I don't know what I'm gonna do once I reach this part because I need to look at more pictures and see if the heel is attached or not. I'm sorry for not filming the tryout process at the beginning, but I really wanted to dive into the project and I had lost sunlight last night, so I just decided to do it without filming. So let's keep working on it and go from there. One thing I will say about these shoes, while I do think that they're turning out really good, I think that my sequins are a bit too thick. They are 1/4 inch. I was looking at some more pictures earlier today, and it looks like the ones on the real shoes are a lot thinner, but I'm not going to be too particular about it because I've not seen any trim that has thinner sequins than this. I'm not too mad about the fact that these sequins are a little bit bigger, and I think that I'm still obviously gonna get the effect that I'm going for, and who's gonna know? I mean, it's not like people are actively researching how are the ruby slippers made. So I think I'm doing good, and as you can see, I just got glue on my finger. First, I'm just taking it and I'll kind of measure it and cut where I'm gonna do it. And I'm just using a trash pair of scissors. I'm gonna glue the line down, and then I take this and I kind of just pat it on with my fingers. It takes a little bit to dry, but once it's dry, like I showed you, it doesn't come off. It's gonna be fine. Then I move on to the next, and I'm just gonna keep doing that all above, going up until I reach about here, because then I need to figure out the heel. I just got to the last of the first roll, and this is how much we covered. I think that I could have been okay with the first 3 rolls that I got at the first store, but it would have been cutting it kind of close seeing as I haven't finished the heel yet. Luckily, I have more than enough sequins to keep going, and I think I'm actually gonna transfer back and forth from the sequins from one store and then the other, just because if they are slightly different, then it will kind of mix in better. So I have it up to the heel on this side, and then I'm filling up this hole. And then I'm gonna go look at reference pictures and see what to do about the rest. Looking at a few different images of the shoes, I decided to do the heel separately from the top half of the shoe and kind of blend the seam together where the heel meets the shoe, if that makes sense. And this did end up working quite well for me, and once it was all done, it was kind of hard to tell that it was 2 separate things. So I don't know, it really kind of worked pretty well. Don't mind the robe, I am being comfortable today. But yesterday I finally finished the base of the very first shoe. As you can see, it's totally covered in the sequins. Funnily, as you know, I was on my second spool. I was nearing the end on the back of this heel, and I was getting really close to the end. Like, it was getting shorter and shorter. It was off of the spool. This is how much I was left with after covering the rest of the shoe. 4 little pieces of sequins. So it was literally 2 spools was the perfect amount, literally the perfect amount, with these 4 sequins left to cover up the base. But as you can see, it's not done yet. I have all of these threads poking up at the top and at the bottom. What I needed to do to actually finish the sequining part of it is trim all of these little threads off and then go over with a new spool of sequins on the edge here. And that is what they did on the original ones. So we're gonna open up the 3rd spool. I'm glad I ended up going to that second store to get more, because I would have ran out, which it's weird because you wouldn't think that this is 24 yards of sequins, but it most definitely is. Now that it's totally covered, I will start cutting these threads off very carefully, and then we can add the trim around the edge. I won't add the trim around the bottom edge. I'll just cut off these threads and add some loose sequins anywhere where I think it needs to get filled in. And in case you were wondering, this little baby was watching me film. Mabel, hello. Now that I have one ruby silver done, it's gonna be time to make the bow. Originally, I was wanting to try to recreate the bow exactly, but that would mean having to find a square rhinestone, and I didn't want to spend the extra money to do it on Amazon when I have so much supplies anyway. What I think I'm gonna do is just make it my own design, and if I can find it, I think I'm gonna play around with these little things instead. In place of where they have the squares on the shoes for the rhinestones, use these circular ones, and I think it's just gonna add a personal touch. And they're truly gonna be one of a kind. What I need to get are bugle beads, red ones. I'm hoping I can find those somewhere. If not, I might have to order some. So I'm going please don't. I'm going to go to the craft store and get some red bugle beads, and then I have these beads and I have the red rhinestones I bought, and we're going to also just use red fabric to make the bow, and then I'll glue everything on and hopefully turn out with something that will look good on these shoes. Okay, I'm trying to do the pattern for the fabric of the bow. I'm looking at pictures right here, and I think I have something that will work. I kind of just free-handed this, and looking at the bows on these, they actually have a blueprint of the shoes. Looking at that, I came up with this. And I think proportionally putting it on the shoe, and I think it works. I don't know if it might be a bit too big. I'm going to compare some more. Shape-wise, I think it looks good. Okay, I trimmed it down a little. There it is, and I think it looks pretty good. I think it just needs to be more defined, and then you'll be able to tell it's a bow. Actually, I take that back. Looking at this specific picture on my laptop, I feel like it still needs to be a bit shorter. Yeah, I think that looks more accurate. So now I'm just gonna get the supplies and show you what my process is gonna be. And I'm pretty happy with how this is. These shoes, I think they're a bit too short on the toe. I wish that they came out a little more because it looks like there's a bit more room here. But I do think that overall this is a good shape. My bow is turning out really good. I'm just using rhinestones. Unfortunately, I don't have enough of these for the second bow, so I'm gonna have to get more on Monday. But I just had to fill in the rest of the fabric with the bugle beads and it will be done. I covered the edge with another round of sequins, and I had to use E6000 because that glue just wasn't sticking, so I had to use this. Hopefully the edges clean up nice when it dries, but it looks okay. We're done with that shoe, so I'm going to, oh no, what is that? Oh, just paper. And so I'm working on this one right now. I've already made the bow for it right there, and we just got to finish it up and these will be done. I'm very excited to have these done because every morning when I wake up and I come downstairs, they are sitting right on that basket, and it fills me up with so much joy to see the one that's completed, and I can't wait to have a set. It's gonna be so cute, and I'm gonna have to find somewhere to wear them. The shoes are done, and I'm really proud of how they turned out. Usually I don't do this, but I wanted to kind of talk about them before I go and tell you what I'm proud of. So I think that these are really good, and I think that they turned out very similar to the movie, and I'm really proud of them. I think they're a perfect piece to have. One of my favorite things, actually I think my favorite thing about the shoe is my bows. These I feel are very screen accurate. Other than the special details that I added personally. And doing a little bit of a side-by-side, other than the square rhinestones, I do feel like they're really, really similar, and they just make me happy, and I feel like they pull the whole shoe together. If I were to make these again in the future, I think that I would take a long time working on them and do them exactly how they made them for the movie. For the movie, they did not glue on the sequins. They actually sewed them onto a different piece of fabric and actually draped the fabric over the shoes. It's a lot more detailed. I don't see myself making these again, but if I did, I would make it more accurate and I would try to find a bit smaller sequins. I'm really, really proud of these shoes, and I hope that you like them too. Before you leave, don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more content like this. Liking this video would really help push it out more to a wider audience, and that would be really, really helpful for my channel. Thanks for watching. Bye!